Tech IT's educational webinar for December 16th, 2025. I'm super excited for this one because it is nearing the end of the year, and so we're taking a look ahead at 2026, and we aren't just looking at technology, we're specifically looking at AI predictions for 2026 and what you can do to get your business ready so that you don't fall behind. And so my name is Nathan Caldwell. I'm marketing manager with SnapTech IT, and I'm going to be conducting today's introduction. So thank you so much for joining us in this live session today. Of course, our webinar is going to be recorded and it will be circulated to all our registrants. And you can also visit us anytime on our YouTube channel for all of our on-demand content. Like I said, today's topic is top AI predictions for 2026. And we have two brilliant fellas here to share their predictions for this coming year. You all know Ted Hulsy. He's the CRO with SnapTech, and I'm not going to give him much more attention than that because, you know, he is such an awesome guy that he doesn't need much of an introduction. But let's go over to Mark Perez. He is our special guest this time, and he is a chief AI strategist and principal or founder at Ticomix. And so we're super excited that he can join us. Ted and Mark, both experts on AI. But Mark, tell us a little bit more about yourself as we start out here.
Actually, I was wondering, can we throw up a poll? I want to see if the audience thinks that my photo looks more like me or Ted's. Like whose photo is more resemblance of the person. A little bit about me. I've been in IT for 20 something years, and then been just messing around with technology for a long period of time. AI came out, got really interested in that. I've spent the last 3 years with AI specifically. About 2.5 years ago, I bought a software company out of Chicago, and we mostly do software development and then AI implementations.
Yeah, so we got these two gentlemen here that are just rolling up their sleeves and elbows deep into AI, working with it every single day. And so they know the pulse of what's going on in the industry. And so their insights are going to come very wise and very insightful for this next year. So let's go ahead though, and before we jump right into the topic, just a little bit about SnapTech IT. We love to give you an idea of who we are and what we do. A lot of times people come here to the webinar because of the topic, not because it's just us. So we want you to have a bit of a background on who we are and what we're doing. We do all of these educational webinars because we really believe that technology should solve problems, not create them. So we want to help you understand technology. And if you have technology issues in the Atlanta area, Phoenix area, San Francisco area, hey, we're the ones to count on. We're ready to serve you. And so Ted, if you'll advance. Yeah, so sometimes people are coming to us because technology is frustrating your employees, it's causing problems, hurting your productivity. Things like frustrated employees or downtime or frequent tech issues, slow response time from your current IT providers, or poor customer service from your current IT providers. And what we do is swoop in and become that friendly IT staff that you can count on to keep your technology up and running. We support your company in many different ways, but the main thing is we have a proven process. The way that we handle your technology is something that you can count on, depend on, and know that we are going to keep you up to date. We're going to work with you on building out a technology plan, make sure that you have that predictable IT budget instead of being surprised on the regular, and also map out and keep you in the know on when you need to make upgrades to make sure that your systems are not falling apart, that they're dependable, and that you can depend on us. We also provide a lot of services to help people with working anywhere and doing it securely. That is a big one that came out, especially during COVID times when, we have hybrid companies with remote work and in-office work, and you want to make sure that everybody who's with your company is secure and that they can access all of the technology that they need to do their job. And so we do it in a couple of ways. Sometimes it is if you have no technology team, you have no internal IT team, we can cover it for you. We can be that managed IT company for you. Or if you have an internal IT team or individuals and you just need that added support, it could be just augmented pieces of your IT that you need to outsource in order to get a little more support, a little more hands-on. Maybe it's after hours work or things like that. We are the ones who can help you with that with co-managed IT, and we have a very seamless experience so that we can become that partner for your IT team and pick up where your team needs that assistance. So that's a little bit about SnapTech IT, and we're going to turn the agenda over now to Ted. We have a few predictions from Mark, a few predictions from Ted, but the whole time we want to keep that Q&A open. So if you do have questions, you can add it either into the questions here in the GoToWebinar app or in the chat, and I'll be monitoring that. I'm going to go off camera now, and I'll just be behind the scenes and turn it over to these two wise men.
All right, Nathan, thanks a lot. So yeah, today's agenda, we're going to go through 8 predictions. Mark's going to lead off with 3 predictions. I'm bringing 5 to the table, and we're going to make it interactive. So bring your questions as we go. And Mark is up first, and we'll also have time for dedicated Q&A at the end. So Mark, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. Well, good. So yes, Ted and I are not in the business of prediction. So some of these are wrong. I can predict that already. So I'd also encourage not just questions. If you have comments, if you want to add some comments and tell us why something we said was wrong or you have a different thought, go right ahead and do that. Love to hear your thoughts on this as well. For my 3, what I did is I broke it down to what's the vision I see in 2026, and then what will businesses that really lean into AI, the ones that really want to take advantage, what are they going to be doing? So in 2026, I think AI is going to be embedded in the majority of software, and because of that, teams are going to perform at different levels based on how well they can use those AI tools. I'm seeing this. I think we're all probably seeing it. Hopefully, the first time I saw AI was my Bank of America app, like a year and a half ago. I think they were one of the first ones to roll it out, kind of like an AI assistant that would be able to answer questions on your bank account. But now it seems like it's in everything. QuickBooks has it, HubSpot. Every tool, every piece of software has at this point rolled out some version of AI in their software. And what I think is going to happen is businesses are going to be spending a lot more time, effort, and resources to train their existing staff to be able to use these AI tools that are I'd say, in 2025 they were optional, but are going to become mandatory in 2026. So they're going to upskill their existing staff, and then I think, and I'm already hearing this from other CEOs that I talk to. I know we're doing it in our company, but favor and/or require that new hires are at the very minimum interested in AI. I use a term that people are leaning into it. We don't need them to be proficient or experts, but I remember 10, 15 years ago when I would hire people, I'd ask them what software applications they use, and if they had never used Excel or Outlook or any of those tools, it was just like, okay, I'm going to pass. I think we're at that point where I'd probably have a hard time hiring somebody who has never used ChatGPT or Gemini or AI, or is afraid to, or hates it, or thinks it's going to end the world. So that's the opportunities I see for businesses, is to train their existing staff to better utilize these tools that are now in most of the business software that we use, and then to potentially hire people that use AI, just so that we can have better productivity from our teams and our people and our businesses. Ted, how do you see it?
Well, Mark, and what do you see changing? I mean, like what in terms of like going from 2025 to 2026, or in terms of like, you know, if a business owner came to you and said, hey, you know, right now we're dabbling in AI, or we've got like an executive handful of people on the executive team, like what needs to change in terms of their level of engagement with the technology and or the steps to enable the workforce?
Yeah, what I'm seeing is, again, because I believe these AI features are now embedded in a lot of the applications and available to us. I think the change is going to be that businesses are actually going to pay for proper training and for the proper tools for their team to be able to leverage AI. I think AI was optional in 25 for a lot of companies. I think it transitions to becoming mandatory, and it's about how can we have our team members well equipped to be able to take advantage of it. So I'm seeing so many of these companies popping up now that offer online live training. You know, we're actually even thinking about doing it ourselves at Ticomix, because we think there's a great opportunity over the next couple of years. A lot of businesses are going to be looking to train their employees on how to properly leverage AI. So I think businesses are going to take that training budget, potentially double or triple it, and then send a lot of their employees through it.
Yeah, and I kind of anticipate there's almost going to be like a mini renaissance of training, because the content of people's jobs are so radically changing that you have to embrace training and enablement to keep up with the pace of technological change. And I don't think that was the case in 24 and 25. I think that 24 and 24 was like the year of just discovery. 25 was the year of experimentation. And I think the 2026 is the year where a lot of these tools will go mainstream in the workplace, both the horizontal tools and the departmental B2B SaaS applications. And so anybody who's kind of sitting on their hands or not embracing employee enablement and training is really selling their team short and selling your organization short. And the good news is that if you look at like Coursera, Udemy, a lot of these online training platforms, their training libraries are like massive when it comes to AI. So there's no shortage of content to go get after.
Yeah, so I'll add two things. I love what you said about it was discovery and experimentation. The other thing I would add about the last couple of years is that the technology was changing so much that it hadn't matured to the point where now I think if you train somebody on AI, we're going to see enhancements to the tools, but not just these drastic changes that we've seen over the last 2 or 3 years. I mean, like 2 years ago, you can only do chat, and then I think we got you could upload pictures into AI and it would look at it visually, and then voice came out, and there was just all these enhancements that it hadn't matured. But I think it's to the point now where a lot of these tools are going to stay pretty at their level, and they're just going to get slightly better. So training makes more sense. Oh boy, there was another point I wanted to make. I'm getting old.
All right, let's go to the next prediction.
Okay.
How about that? All right.
Okay. So along with this is maybe a continuation of the previous one, but I think in 2026, most employees are going to use AI to take over a lot of the admin work that they hate. I think we'll get to the point where we'll be using AI to essentially be the first draft of everything. Like the idea that you would start a proposal, even a contract, essentially with a blank page, I think that's behind us, right? So using these tools because I think most people, at least I do, I hate admin work, so I think most people probably do, but maybe I'm wrong, but I think AI is best used and is currently very capable and ready to eliminate all the stuff that we hate to do. And I don't know about you, Ted, but like the stuff that I hate to do, I usually procrastinate on. I wait until the last minute, and then it takes me way too long. And it's just neat now. For the last couple of years, I've been using AI to review contracts, take meeting notes, and do all the stuff that I knew I needed to do, but I would never really do it very well. And it's just made me much more productive. So I think businesses that lean into this are going to use that philosophy of having AI draft every version of everything, like the first version. Doesn't mean, we need the humans involved to make sure that the final product is at the level that we need. I think we've all heard stories about attorneys that have used AI to write up a brief or something. They submit it to the court, and then they find out AI hallucinated and made up a bunch of these cases, and then they get in a lot of trouble. So don't do that. But use it to start the first draft. I think that's huge. I think at this point, probably a lot of us have been in meetings where you have an AI bot on the side listening and taking notes and doing follow-ups. I think that's just going to be part of normal business these days. The advantage to that is hopefully then the participants can pay attention. And more importantly, when the meeting's over, we have documented, we've documented everything that was said, decisions that were made, and who's supposed to do what next. And then there's a lot of tools rolling out right now that are going to allow employees to kind of automate some of their smaller workflows without having to know how to write code. So there's companies like Make, N8N that allow Notion is another good one that allow you to kind of take a workflow that you would do. For example, maybe you have to update an Excel sheet based on some website data, and now you can just automate that using the comment browser or any of the other tools that I mentioned. And I think as employees start leaning into this, as businesses give them permission to use AI to eliminate repetitive work, I think a lot of businesses are going to benefit from higher productivity as a result of that.
Yeah, I would jump in and say the other thing that I'm seeing is that it's not just work that people hate, it's also work that often was left undone in many organizations. So like if you think about once you extend like meeting recording to everybody in the company, and the expectation is that every Teams meeting gets recorded, and you have an AI agent that can interpret the transcript of the Teams meeting and give you a recap, like it fundamentally changes how meetings work in an organization. And you don't really see that when it's just the executive team doing it. You don't really see that kind of cultural change in how people work. But when you extend the tool to the entire workforce and you set the standard that all meetings will be recorded, for example, things really change. You now have clear action items. You can go back and inspect the transcript or inspect the recording if there's a confusion or a dispute. And I think what you end up seeing is that like everything will get recorded, and it's fundamentally a better organized business when you have meetings that are recorded, transcripts, meeting minutes that can be immediately sent out, action items that can be delegated, and the ability to go back to the tape, if you will, like a professional football game, and actually look at the play-by-play if there is a dispute down the road.
I think that's a great point. When you said work that we knew we should do, but we wouldn't do. I think about how I've been using AI with legal documents. Like I hate legal documents. So for me, it's a lot about what I hate, eliminating what I hate. But also, I knew for the last 20 years that when I got back a contract, especially if I sent like a Word version, I should go back and make sure that, you know, changes weren't made, you know, that I wasn't aware of. And now I'm using AI and I go, here's what I sent the prospect or client, here's what I got back. Has anything changed? And that takes me like 30 seconds to do that check. But it's something that I knew that I should do, but I never did before. And I think that's an example of using AI to potentially leverage and do these tasks that yeah, we should have been doing all along.
Right on.
I think AI is going to eliminate hold times. I think this is my final prediction, but I think we all expect immediate responses. I think that's going to just continue to develop in 26. I think AI is going to resolve a lot of these common requests. I just, Ted, when we were preparing for this yesterday, I told you about how I called a pizza place to make reservations, and I'm like 3 or 4 questions into it until I realized I'm talking to a chat bot, a voice bot, and like I was happy about it because they answered immediately. They answered my questions. They made the reservation. I didn't have to wait. I didn't have to go on hold. So as a consumer, I'm excited about that. Now, if I was to call a different restaurant and then somebody answers, they put me on hold, and then they pick up and it's too loud because I hear the restaurant in the background and they really can't help me. Like that's just a different experience. So I think businesses are going to start leveraging these tools to provide customer service, both internally and externally. We're working with a couple businesses right now that are developing these agents, these bots internally to be able to help their customer service people answer questions when they're on customer service calls. So, and to bring people who used to, you know, like newer hires, get them the information that they need. But yeah, so I think businesses that lean into this and are going to be leading are going to be looking at how can AI handle routine customer questions. So for example, I think earlier this year, HubSpot, which is a sales and marketing tool, a business tool for those that don't use HubSpot, but HubSpot released a chat bot that you could just add to your website. And so we did, and I didn't really expect it to be good, but it's really good. The first thing it did was it read everything on our website. I uploaded additional documents, and now if you come to our website, I think I called him Andy. AI Andy will answer just basic questions about Ticomix, our website, and anything that I gave it answers to. So I think, you know, a lot of these companies are making these tools much more readily available. I think, in fact, the HubSpot example, I think they give me so many credits that it essentially doesn't cost me anything because I have more than enough credits for how many uses. So it was free. And I think voice is going to be huge. The issue with voice over the last couple of years has just been how long the latency, how long it takes from when I say something, it interprets it and then responds back. And that has gotten pretty darn good. I mean, to the point where, like in my pizza example, it took me 4 questions to realize I wasn't talking to a human because it responded very quickly and it sounded legit. So I think this is going to become an expectation from customers in 2026, and a lot of businesses are going to leverage these AI tools to just provide 24/7, you know, inexpensive and helpful customer service.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is, I think you're spot on that, like, this will be like a self-serve revolution, which will take it to another level. But I think even when we connect with a live human, AI is going to be working in the background alongside humans to make that human that much more productive and effective on their calls. there's a technology or a feature called Whisper, which is being rolled out by a platform called Resolve AI, and they are a AI platform for IT service management and HR and customer service. And they have, the way they're implementing it is they're also making it so that the human agents, that the Whisper agent is listening to the conversation and in real time providing context and suggestions to the rep who's working in real time. So even in those scenarios where you will get connected to a human, the opportunity to have a much better customer experience and a much more rapid support experience is going to be there, because the humans are going to be turbocharged with this technology running alongside them.
Yeah. And I think that benefits everybody, because you got the customer who gets the information they need sooner and better, and maybe on that first call, and then the business sees lower costs because their employees can just be more productive. And so, maybe for the next few years, AI helps to boost productivity before it eventually takes over the world and kills us all. But now, with that said, Ted, I'll turn it over to you. What do you got?
I'm fundamentally more hopeful. Every single one of my predictions has roses and productivity and growth and wealth in our future. So I am very positive in a lot of ways, but let me make a couple observations. So the fourth prediction is that the path we've been on for innovation will not change in terms of, like, what I want to encourage our listeners to think about is the way we've been discovering new tools is going to continue to be how we drive innovation in the future. So what I mean by that is that experimentation by power users and executives will continue to be a thing. I mean, we are entering a phase where we're going from like a lot of experimentation and not a lot of deployment to more broad-based deployment. And in a couple slides here, we're going to talk about what that's going to look like and where that's going to happen. And Mark's giving some good examples of where, AI is showing up everywhere in like departmental tools, in B2B SaaS applications. And so we're definitely getting to a point where this technology is showing up everywhere. However, what you do see is that the way this technology is best adopted is to really empower people to be doing R&D in your organization all the time. And you really want to empower, you want to give a sandbox to your power users, to your people who like to be early adopters and like to get out on thin ice. You want to enable those folks, because what you see in all the different tools is that bottoms up innovation is really how innovation unfolds. It's not going to be a top down edict. You want to let your power users and your innovators in your organization play with these tools. And once they catch the magic, once they master the use cases, you then need to pour on the gasoline and give them resources and give them the mandate to broaden the deployment to their peers and colleagues, to whole departments. And if it's a horizontal application, for example, to your entire company. And then you want to hold them up really as leaders in your organization and really champion them as somebody to look up to, and make them as a resource to inspire other people to try to do new things. Mark, I don't know if you have any reactions to that prediction.
Yeah, just two things that I've seen that companies that do this really well. One is they make failure okay. If you're gonna empower your employees to experiment and do things, you gotta let them know that it's okay for them to fail, because through that failure we learn what isn't working and we get closer to what is. So just making failure okay is an important part of that culture that you want to build to allow people to experiment. And then the other one, I've seen a couple companies do this, and what they're doing is they're finding the 4 or 5 people within the organization that are already really excited and are using AI, and they're getting those together and they're having them meet on a weekly or bi-weekly basis just to be able to share ideas. And that becomes that nucleus within the organization that is embracing AI. As I've sat in on those meetings, I've watched as they end up helping each other figure out how to use AI, and then they go out and they then talk to other people within the organization and share what they're doing and what other people are doing. So, just finding the people that are already using it and enabling them and encouraging them to experiment, to share, can be very fruitful in pushing this out to the entire organization.
Okay, let's talk about the next trend. So we talked about, championing innovators, really empowering people who are getting in on thin ice and doing experimentation. But I think one of our big predictions for 2026 is that AI adoption is going to go mainstream in a lot of different application categories. And one of them is Microsoft Copilot. So Copilot is probably, of course, it's from Microsoft, and it leverages and builds the ChatGPT engine and runs it inside of the traditional productivity apps that we've known and loved from Microsoft for years. And I think by and large, people have been critical of Microsoft over the past year and a half because I would say in the early days, the product wasn't good enough, I would say, number one. And then number two, they priced it at a pretty high premium. So, the typical commercial customer spends about $22 a month for the standard Microsoft 365 licensing pack. And they priced Copilot as an additional $30 investment on top. And I think Microsoft has gotten the message loud and clear that this technology is amazing, but $30 extra is way too much money to have this deployed broadly inside of an organization. Whether it's a 30-person company or a 300-person company, that is a massive software investment. And I think it's held Microsoft back. And what they recently did is they dropped the price from $30 a month to $21 a month. And I think it's going to make a real difference. And I think it's going to cause deployment to, I know for a fact with some of our clients, we've been talking with them about it for months and months. And the new price point is going to be a game changer for many of them in making the decision to go from having 3 or 4 users in the company using it to having everybody use it. And then once you do that, then every Teams meeting gets recorded. Every Teams meeting gets transcribed. Everyone's using Copilot to summarize their meetings and that sort of thing. And so a lot of these cool functions will go mainstream. And my prediction is that Microsoft's penetration will go from something like 2% of their total Microsoft 365 installed base to something like 6 in the course of a year. So, Mark, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think getting cheaper is a big part of it. I think just equally as important is that when they first released this a couple of years ago, not only was it expensive, but they made wild promises and the product just was falling short like crazy. Their marketing was phenomenal and their delivery was not. And it's still not my go-to. I like ChatGPT a lot better than I like Copilot, even though Copilot uses ChatGPT, but it's getting pretty darn close. So I think I'm totally on board with it. I think it could get even above 6%, Ted. I think with the price dropping and the product actually getting good and delivering on a lot of the promises that they made a year or two ago, I could see a huge explosion on usage of Microsoft Copilot. The other neat thing about Copilot versus like ChatGPT is it's just integrated in Outlook, for example, right? Like when I use ChatGPT to write an email, I gotta copy and paste it and the formatting gets messed up. But Copilot's just right there in your face, ready to go and help you. So a lot less friction and a lot better of a product.
Yeah, and I think some people underestimate like some of the applications. Like we keep coming back to Teams meetings being recorded and transcribed. But I think people underestimated like how much of a killer app certain uses like that will be. So again, broad-based, I think it's going to happen. It's going to go big.
Yeah.
Now, by the same token, there's a bigger war that Microsoft and Google have been fighting for a long time, and the war will continue. And that is the kind of the cloud productivity war. And so I kind of view these two things as very tightly integrated. Well, everybody's kind of talking about AI. Microsoft has 400 million paid Microsoft 365 users, and Google has a 20% share of that market with Google Workspace. Now, what Google has done is Google has basically made it so that if you subscribe to Google Workspace, Gemini comes for free. And I just think that that's Gemini 3 is out. Gemini is pretty killer. Google has totally turned the corner. Gemini is now like a world-class product and super competitive. And I think now that's like a huge incentive to many. If you're a large enterprise, switching from Microsoft to Google is a huge endeavor. And it's not going to happen in many cases, but for like small and medium business organizations or greenfield companies, I think it's a very compelling choice for companies to say, you know what, I can pay $14 a month for Google Workspace Business Standard, and I get the entire Google suite, and I get Gemini only for $14 a month. That is like a screaming deal. And it addresses that integration point, Mark, you were talking about, where ChatGPT is cool in a lot of ways, has a lot of great use cases. Some people are in love with it from a user experience, but it's not integrated with your apps. And Gemini and Copilot both are. And now Copilot is just this incredible value proposition. So my thought is there's going to be some significant market share gains by Google in the cloud productivity space.
Yeah, so I agree that Google releasing Gemini for free within it is amazing value. But I disagree it's going to make a difference, Ted. Like, so I'll disagree with you on this one a little bit, only because I'm old enough where I remember 15 years ago losing sleep over the idea that, Google was going to take over and businesses were going to transition to Google Workspace, and how my business was going to, we used to do IT support. So we were going to have to learn how to do that. And it was going to change everything because it was such a better product. And it never really happened. I mean, 20% after 15, 20 years is a small percentage. I think it's just difficult for businesses to retool and to retrain employees. I think the retraining cost are a lot more than the $21 that they have to pay to get Copilot in Office. And if, at the end of the day, I think most businesses will just pay the 21 bucks, stay with Office, and avoid the headache and trouble of retraining. I do think a lot of new businesses, and I talk to a lot of new companies, a lot of them are just, they start with Google, and if you start with Google, then that's a different story. But the idea of a 25-year-old business with 50 employees transitioning from Microsoft to Google, I've seen a couple of companies do it. It's a lot of work, and it may not be worth it for 21 bucks.
Yeah, it's a huge lift. It's a huge lift, and I appreciate your point of view on it. But it is interesting how AI is being used as a competitive tool to kind of drive a wedge,
Yes.
and we'll see what happens on this one. Okay, the next point is that, and Mark kind of touched on this a little bit, but that AI is now everywhere. And what you're seeing is that when you look at the numbers, if we look at the chart on the right, so we've been talking, when we talk about ChatGPT or we talk about Copilot or Gemini, those are really horizontal apps. And that's roughly half, the 8.4 billion, roughly less than half of the total economic opportunity today. And then if you look, the departmental AI opportunity in and of itself, so this is like B2B apps with AI functionality, this has grown like massively in the past 24 months. And there's new startups happening. Almost every traditional B2B line of business app has really launched massive AI feature sets. And so this is really going to be, I mean, I think in all the apps that we use day to day in the past 12 months, it's been like a bonanza trying to keep up with all the new features that have rolled out. And so I think what makes it so exciting is that in our traditional B2B SaaS apps, that's where all of our data lives. And so the AI experience has a promise to be like just night and day better and easier to implement. So like Mark mentioned HubSpot, like we're using a feature in HubSpot called a prospect agent. And the prospect agent actually customizes personalized emails to prospects and sends them out on an automated basis. And these things are really good because they have all the data that's already in or HubSpot CRM. So we think that this year is going to be an inflection point where the amount of AI that companies are using is going to really shift massively to kind of departmental AI or those traditional B2B software apps that are now infused with all of these new AI features. Mark, care to comment?
Yeah, and not just infused, but like I had a friend call me a few weeks ago. He was really excited. He set up a meeting with me. He sent me a 4-page write-up about this new business idea that he had, based on the fact that he has an apartment and he's wasting a lot of time just trying to lease out the apartments in his apartment complex. And his idea is, and again, he had spent all this time using AI, but he spent all this time doing this write-up and this business plan around what if we were to create an AI bot that helps apartment owners lease apartments. And so he gets on the call, he tells me all about it, and like I know what I'm going to say the moment he starts talking, but he's really excited. I can't interrupt him. Like 10 minutes later, when he's done giving me the pitch, I'm like, let me just share my screen. And I said, I learned this a long time ago, about 1.5 years ago. I said, whenever I think I have a new business idea of a problem that I want to solve, I take that and I add the words AI and I just Google it. And I promise you, we'll find 5 or 6 companies that have already spent $1 million or $2 million to identify that. So like, I just did it to make sure I was right. But like on this one, if you just Google AI leasing agent, there's like 6 or 7 companies, right? So it's almost like at this point, any sort of problem that you need to solve in your business, there's a good chance that somebody has already built an AI solution, and for $39.95 a month, you can just subscribe and start using it. So it's infused everywhere, and then almost every problem has had somebody that kind of messed around. I'm not saying they're all great solutions, but they're definitely available and ready to be tested.
Right, and the ones you're describing there is what we would put in the vertical AI category,
Yeah.
So something industry specific. So yes, it's quite astounding, and I think we all just owe it to ourselves to like embrace new potential solutions because they're out there. Okay, our last prediction. So
Are you gonna make it, Ted?
and my apologies for the laryngitis that I brought to today's session. AI cannot do anything about that because that's atoms, not digits. So sorry about that. But the last comment is that my personal belief is that AI is not destroying jobs. AI is actually creating jobs, and that we will see in the economies in the world that embrace AI and have like a liberal framework and a robust ecosystem of companies, you will see dramatic increases in employee productivity to the tune of like 10, 20, 30% for the tasks that people commonly perform and in any given work week. And what you see in the data is that, like, if you look on the left chart, this is different jobs that have different levels of exposure to jobs being, or functions or tasks being eliminated by AI. And what you see is there's no, over 2.5 years, there's no meaningful change in the proportion of those categories or cohorts of losing work. So maybe there's a time delay, maybe this is going to happen in the next 3 years, but it's not showing up in the data yet. Okay, so that's the first point. The second point, if you look at the chart on the right, is this is how jobs change with different technology. When we introduce computers, when we introduce the internet, there's no doubt that our jobs and our work changes. And you can definitely see with the dark blue line that AI, the rate of change with AI is higher, but it's still more of an evolution, not a revolution at the end of the day, which says that AI is not going to be this job destroying monster. It's going to be something that's going to unleash very high levels of productivity in the workforce. Mark, care to comment?
Yeah, I sure hope you're right, because if it caused a lot of losses, boy, we would be in trouble. A lot of governments would be. I don't know. I've heard a lot of smart people talk about this topic, and I think the best argument I've heard is that when you look historically back at the different, the past revolutions that have happened, you know, people would potentially, some people would lose their jobs, but a lot of other jobs were created at the same time, and productivity overall went up, and that's why we live much better off with than people did 150 years ago. I guess the only other data point that I personally have that makes me wonder about this is that I talk to a lot of business owners and CEOs that are looking to implement AI to in their business, and they may not tell me the first time I meet with them, and they may try to kind of hide their motives, but I'd say the vast majority, if not every single one, is looking at implementing AI in order to either drastically boost productivity, so they don't lay anybody off, but they stop hiring, and we're seeing that a lot of big companies have announced that they're not going to be doing any new hires, or they do want to eliminate jobs and they want to boost profit. So I'm just not when I'm talking to people, it seems like a big driver is one way or the other. We want to either do more with the same number of people, or we don't think we can do more, but we want to have less people and more profit. And I don't fault them for it. I own my own business. I want more profit too. But that's what has me worried. But it doesn't mean that somewhere else in the job sector, other jobs won't get created and there won't be other opportunities. But yeah, so.
Yeah, so the jury is out. And I mean, to your point, there certainly is, the profit motive is powerful, and a huge part of the profit motive is wringing labor out of the equation, and AI has the promise to do that. I just think that we're not yet seeing it, and we're not yet seeing it. And I look day to day, and I see certain tasks that I do where I'm able to get it done in half the time, sometimes 80% less time. But many things, it's like I really feel like in practice, I'm maybe 10 to 20% more productive. And because of that, you know, the other thing that immediately happens is once you get productive in that, you take on different challenges and you take on more work. You don't just work until midday Tuesday and then call it quits for the rest of the week. You know, it's just not how human beings are. And that's why the efficiency gains actually end up in more utilization of the technology and more output. And so that's kind of where I'm going to land until we come back and have this debate a year from now to see what actually happened. So
I love it. I agree. Let's go with that future.
Okay, so a little bit rosier. And so we're going to wrap up here, folks. Just if you are an organization and you're interested in talking to SnapTech about your AI journey or about your cybersecurity needs, you can book an appointment with us with the QR code on the left. And if you want to continue the conversation with us about how technology is transforming our businesses in the new year, we have another session on January 22nd in the new year, where we're going to be focusing on prompting best practices. So join us for that. With that, we'll be wrapping up. Mark, thanks a lot for joining me today and carrying me along with my struggling voice. But really interesting conversation, and thanks a lot for taking part in it.
Awesome. Good effort, Ted. You made it through. I'm proud of you. Good job.
Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have happy holidays and a great new year, and we'll see you in 2026. Take care.
Merry Christmas.